topic and one that's of interest to RMs. So we're quite happy to have with us Mohammed here today to present on road maintenance agreements, as well as the recent legislative changes that will impact them. So Mohammed Faluga started his work with the Government of Saskatchewan in September 2019 as an executive intern with the Ministry of Government Relations. Upon completing his internship, Mohammed joined the Ministry of Parks, Culture and Sport as a senior policy analyst. In October 2021, he returned to the Ministry of Government Relations as a senior property tax and assessment policy analyst. Mohammed holds a master's in public administration from the University of Saskatchewan and a BA in political science from the University of British Columbia. So with that introduction, I'll hand it over to Mohammed now for his presentation. And just as a reminder, we'll have an opportunity for those questions to follow his presentation.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Jennifer, for inviting us to present on this important topic, the road maintenance agreement. And I'm sure most of the attendees, this reason will impact them in some sort of ways. So without further ado, I will start presentation. Today also, Yomi Kantola is joining me, is the director of the Property Tax and Assessment Unit. So if you have any difficult question, please feel free to ask him. So, so without further ado, we start. You see my screen? Hello?
Yes, we can see it.
Okay, nice. So as I mentioned, so today will be about the recent amendment to the road maintenance agreement. So I divide the presentation to the beginning. We will start about the background about the road maintenance agreement, and then I will move to discuss the rationale behind the recent amendment, and finally we will discuss the actual amendment. So the road maintenance agreement has been available for municipalities since 1981. And so it was stemmed from the Section 22 of the Municipalities Act that provide authority for municipalities to enter into a road maintenance agreement with the producer, haulers, or receiver of delivered good. So the RMAs are meant only for the heavy haulers, road users that may cause like more damage to the regular, like more than the average kind of rate payer, or they have no property tax based on the municipalities. So these RMAs are intended to address, and this is a very kind of important point here, is like to address the incremental costs associated with heavy hauling, not the full cost for maintenance or construction or repair of the municipal roads. This road RMAs has been the first time has been updated in 1998, and then they haven't been touched until 2013, and the government had increased the rate by like 37%, that to made up for the kind of for the consumer price index. And then after 2013, now we move to the kind of the actual amendment that we had today we're going to discuss about. So the recent amendment has been into effect since January 2022. So the rationale behind this is to provide a clear guidance to municipalities and better transparency for industry. So there was no, before in the old kind of provision, there was no clear, for example, definition of what hauler means or what bulk hauler means. So there was no clear definition, or even for industry, there was no, at that time, there was a kind of a range of the rate, the kind of minimum and maximum. So there was no kind of more transparency for the industry, how this rate. So, and then we kind of, the second point is to provide consistent rate for industry, as I mentioned, to remove any need for the municipality to provide actual data to defend their rate decision. And that stemmed from a court order in August 2014. It established that the municipalities have to provide a variable cost to justify the rate amount they just choose to charge the industry. And then we finally we kind of we want to introduce like kind of a measurable and consistent like kind of formula to calculate the cost for road maintenance agreement and so the compensation. So the all in all, the main purpose is to provide like kind of greater consistency and transparency and accountability for road maintenance agreement. So now the regulatory change went, as I mentioned, went into effect in January 2022, and that was kind of able to first to clarify the definition, what's constitute, as I mentioned, what's constitute a bulk hauler, and also like kind of to establish that like kind of a rate that based on verifiable data that was collected from the from municipalities. And also we laid to administrate also a rate structure that move away from the kind of province-wide to like kind of a regional-wide, and that was consistent with the kind of the area transportation planning committee that was established by the government, the Ministry of Highways. And also the aim in order to kind of avoid any kind of variances with that rate, so that the regulation aimed also to prescribe allow the rate to be updated every 2 years following the implementation in 2022. And then also we create like kind of a new provision about like kind of that created about cancellation and suspension of the road maintenance agreement. So now I will go into specific. So the first about the definition of the bulk hauler. So that means that like any single or repeated transportation of goods by 2 or 4 shipper hauler, like kind of across the kind of a defined road. But these have to be like 2 definition has to be met, which is the first one, the payload has to be in excess of 2 tons. And then in the opinion of the municipal council responsible for that road, these hauling that has significant, they are significant in nature because of their type or because of the frequency or the weight. And then the second one, that the municipal council believe this hold will cause like kind of damage to the street or the road more than exceeding the other user of the road. And that second also, so we have it that allow some discretion for the municipal council to make decision over the kind of the road maintenance agreement to choose from. So, and also like kind of we think a bulk hauler. So the hauler, who is the hauler? So the hauler should have, we add in the regulation that should have some sort of control, direction, or higher over the bulk haul. So in other words, the hauler is someone who owns or have a direct control over the load or means of transportation of that loads. So the kind of the second part, which is the key, which is the regionalization of road maintenance agreement. As I mentioned earlier, we have moved away from kind of a province-wide rate structure to a regional structure based on this 8 like kind of transportation committee. So and also that rate will be consistent rate for industry in each region to by that removing, as I mentioned, the minimum and maximum range. So with that, by creating that, we kind of remove this responsibility from the municipality to prove then to the data that this is the right kind of rate that they use based on this verifiable data. So and as so the formula that we use is the information we use is that from the information from the municipal financial statement and also from the traffic count information that the government, the Ministry of Highways already collect. So these are kind of the 2 sources for the RMAs rate. the regional rate. So as I mentioned, we added like kind of verifiable and repeated formula for RMA's rate to replace the existing rate structure, which does not have like kind of a formula base or has no verifiable origin. So, and the use of that rate, as I said, has removed the need for municipalities to prove the actual data to defend their rate decision and to avoid any kind of appeal or a court challenge. And the rate, and so we added that the rate, the RMA's rate, the regional rate, will be updated every other year. And the amendment also set a specific formula for how you calculate the regional RMA rate that will be based on, as I mentioned, tangible municipal data and the data from the Ministry of Highways. So now moving to the actual calculation of the regional RMA regional rate. So the regional rate is the kind of the transportation service expenditure for fiscal year over the average of 2 years. That will be multiplied by the percentage of the road damage attributed to truck traffic on the municipal road, and that was determined and collected by the Ministry of Highways, and that will be divided by the sum of annual truck vehicle kilometers based on the rural municipalities, and that's also collected by the Ministry of Highways, and that will be averaged over 2 years, and then we multiply that sum by the kind of the average truck payload in tons. Also, and that will be also determined by the Ministry of Highways. So the expenditure for the kind of the transportation services expenditure for that will be collected from the financial statement of the municipalities. And so the other kind of amendment that it was new to the regulation that we added, which is we added provision for cancellation and suspension of the RMAs. So the kind of we have a specific, like we outline the process for kind of for cancellation. And for the cancellation, there is 3 like kind of condition. The first one is that like kind of the holder, like we allow the municipality to cancel, which is the first one, the holder will obey a suspension order kind of willfully. And then the second one, the holder hasn't adhered to the term of RMAs or alter the agreement without identification. And then finally, if the holder like kind of will fail to make a payment according to the rate or the timing of the payment. And then we added also the kind of suspension. The suspension will allow the municipalities are allowed to suspend the road maintenance agreement under 2 conditions. The first one, if there is a damage to the road, and the second one, if there is a high risk. And high risk is that there's a property damage or there's personal injury to the public. So, and then we added like kind of specific section for the dispute resolution. We outlined that before any cancellation or like cancellation mainly, that municipality, the municipal council and the holder, the 2 parties has to go through the dispute resolution process. The dispute resolution process that they have the first 2, the 2 they have to highlight to agree on the dispute resolution process. So the first one, for example, they have to appoint a mediator between the 2 parties to sit and discuss what's the issue. If that fails, then we allow them then to go to the second step, which is to go to the SIMB. If that fail, and then they could go to court. But like these are the municipalities and the holder, the 2 parties, has to outline their process. So they don't have to adhere to it. They have to adhere, like they have to provide the dispute resolution process, and the 2 parties have to agree in the 2 process. And so then we move to the third thing, the 4th thing we added, which is the compensation formula. So the formulas allow the government to update the rate at regular interval, because it's basically like kind of on the regularly collected data, and the principle have been endorsed by all stakeholders during the consultation of the road maintenance agreement. So the compensation formula is that the compensation amount is equal to the regional rate, which is we previously discussed, and then that will be multiplied by the estimated total quantity hauled, and then will be multiplied by the distance hauled, and finally will be multiplied by the number of times of the bulk haul has been carried out, which is the frequency, how many times. So as I mentioned, the regional rate is already what we discussed about, and then the hauler has to pay the full compensation, which is that kind of, this is a key point here, which is the hauler has to pay full compensation amount to municipality in summer, yet they have to make like kind of half of that compensation at half 50%, the kind of half of that compensation in the winter period. So the winter and the summer period, the two parties are allowed to discuss the period between themselves, but if they haven't agreed, but the kind of the regulation has suggest the period for them, but they have first, the two has to go like kind of themselves through the kind of to assigning the period that they agreed upon. So the kind of, for example, the winter period is like, it's suggested to be from November 15 to March 15. But also the kind of the two parties had the ability to discuss kind of that, like kind of the period, the winter period or the summer period. And also, so the hauler has to pay the compensation to municipality within 60 days if it's a kind of a single hauler, or if it's a bulk, that has to be in a quarterly basis. We also, the regulation allow the municipality, if they don't like the legislated, regulated like kind of rate, RMAs, regional rate, they are allowed to go beyond that rate. And so, but however, there's a certain condition that they have to take into account. So any fee or any rate that has been that the municipality would like to use, that have to be used uniformly across the municipalities for any other hauler. So you can use one specific rate for one hauler and use it for and use another rate for the other hauler. So it has to be consistent within the municipality. The second condition, that they have to include provision regarding dispute resolution. And then finally, the parties, kind of the municipality and the hauler, will no longer be eligible to apply to Saskatchewan Municipal Board for a decision for any dispute. However, we do suggest like they may use Saskatchewan Dispute Resolution Office, but it's not in the agreement, but this is just a suggestion. But these are the conditions if the municipality would like to go for another kind of regional rate. This is the kind of presentation in short. So if you have any question, you could reach to the Yomi Akintola. He's in this presentation. And also you could reach out to me or the mailbox for the GR property tax. So now I will be happy to take any questions from you.
Thank you for that presentation, Mohammed. Lots of good information there. So as Adam had mentioned, we're going to open it up to questions now. And if you do have any questions you'd like to ask Mohammed, please just enter them in, write them into that chat box, and we can go from there. So that chat box should just be located on your screen with a little icon. You can click it up if the box is not present, and it should open up for you to write your question in. So just opening it up now, it looks like we do have a few questions already, Mohammed, so we'll just jump right into them. That first question is, what if we have a road maintenance agreement only during road ban season? Will we be forced to collect through summer and winter?
Okay, that's okay, let me see if Yomi here. Yomi? Okay, I think this question I'm not familiar with that, so but I could take it and get back to you with that.
Yeah, we can take any
yeah.
questions we're not able to
As mentioned,
answer
I
here
just like
today.
kind of I was during the kind of the legislation process that came after, but I'm really happy to address like kind of any question afterward that I'm not familiar with.
Sounds good. We appreciate that. We'll move on to the next question here. What is the verifiable origin of the new formula?
So as I mentioned, so the formula like kind of first has different like kind of variables, and then the variables stem from two. One from the municipal financial statement, which is about the expenditure for the kind of transportation services, and then we also use the Ministry of Highways. I could share my screen again just to show that which one is which. Okay, yeah, here the rate. Okay, I'll be happy to share my screen again. Okay, sorry. So here's the first. This one is you see my screen there?
Yes, we can see it.
Yeah. So this rate comes from the financial statement from the municipality itself, and the other one it comes from Ministry of Highways. Does that answer your question?
If you have further follow-up questions, you can just enter again into the chat box and we'll follow through with the questions here. So we'll just move on to the next one. So if the total haul amount is 10,000 cubic yards over 15 trips, how would that look with the formula applied? And this might be one to take offline and follow back up, but I'll let you see.
Yeah,
if you want to
because
respond to it here.
actually we keep getting this question before, like it's a different conversion rate, but I'll be happy if you could reach out. I will give you like kind of the conversion rate because I need to discuss Ministry of Highways because most of the data that comes from them. So, but I will ask them about the conversion rate, but I will be happy to get back to you.
Sounds
But
good.
yeah.
The next question that we do have is, what about multiple trucks?
That I think that's a question. Okay, for multiple it doesn't on top of my mind, but it could be related to kind of the frequency and the weight itself. Like kind of at the beginning, you have to know the weight itself, how kind of the weight, because part of the compensation formula is the weight the load that you are transporting. So this would be a count, and then the frequency. So so two tracks would be like twice instead of like counting for one track, like they're going back and forth. You could double it. But this is just comes to the top of my mind. But I will get back to you and provide like kind of I mean, Adam, are you or you? I mean, I would like someone just to write this question that I wasn't able to answer them here. Yomi is here. Yomi is feel free. Yomi.
Yeah, I can just quickly between the formula allows for multiple trucks. So
Yeah.
the formula that we have in the regulation, it allows for multiple trucks. So for example, what it does is to look at the kilometers and the weight of the truck. That could be incorporated into the formula, unless if there's any other context to that question.
And if there's further questions that you want to ask related to that, again, just add it into the chat and we'll get back to that question. So what can be done if a hauler won't sign a road maintenance agreement? That's the next question we have here.
Then they can use the road.
Yeah.
To all whatever they want to all. All oilers or contractors must, I mean, like before they could use the road, they have to have an agreement, and then if they can't just all things on municipality roads without having an agreement. That's just what it is. Though we don't encourage confrontational situations, you know, like there's still going to be some kind of negotiations with the oiler, but the quick response would be yeah, they can't all whatever they want to all on municipality roads.
And so what would maybe be that enforcement component to it if they were to not have a road maintenance agreement in effect and be traveling on the roads?
Well, it's kind of a very tricky question, and it's one area that the ministry always like to give the municipality you know the it's discretionary, right? And then they could they have multiple tools of doing that, and we don't want to get into that to say you can't block the road. We can't say you cannot block the road. It's your road, so and it's your asset that you have to manage. And also keeping in mind that road maintenance agreements are meant to account for non-common wear and tear of the road. So as a result of using the road, there might be some damages or there may be some wear and tear on the road. So the purpose is for road maintenance agreement. So if it's normal traffic, that's totally okay, right? But if it's going to cause damage, and if the oiler or the contractor doesn't want to have an agreement, then they can't all whatever. They have to find an alternative way of getting their materials or goods across. So we cannot, long story short, I went around a lot. Long story short, we can't make any recommendation with respect to that. But there's road maintenance agreements there.
Okay, so we'll move on to the next question here, which is, are there any regulations around collecting a deposit from haulers for a road maintenance agreement?
In the regulation, no. But can it be part of maybe dispute or collection? Yes. So that might be part of in the regulation. We don't have condition. We don't have tools in there to collect deposits. We don't.
However, if the two parties have agreed on certain thing, they're happy.
So potentially an option of putting
This
it
is
into the agreement and looking at
as
that.
as Yumi just stated, like there's no kind of regulatory requirement, but if the two parties like kind of agreed upon certain condition, they are so the road maintenance agreement template that we send, like kind of 2 minutes, but it is a template. This is not like kind of a Bible they have to follow.
Yeah.
It's just like kind of it's a template that they could modify, they could add, but they would keep in mind that this is the compensation formula, and also the rate has to be like kind of 50% off for winter season, which is by the defined time that they selected. So we suggest like from November 15 to March 15, but they could also find a different time. So, but this is between the two parties.
Okay, so the next question that we have is, do you use the total number of trips in the formula? 10,000 meters cubed over 15 trips. The follow portion of that question.
Let's see. I think that speaks to the frequency. Right, Yomi? Go ahead.
Yeah, that speaks to the frequency.
Okay, the next question we have is, we have an ILO with which we have an RMA with. Since their haul amounts are difficult to verify, we have agreed to a base amount with them. Are we required to, hold on, I gotta open that up further. Are we required to apply this method to our aggregate haulers as well?
Could you just repeat it again? Just I want to make sure I'm answering the questions.
So the first part here is they have an ILO with which they have an RMA with. And since their haul amounts are difficult to verify, they have agreed to a base amount with them. So they're wondering, and the question is, based on that, are they required to apply this method to other haulers, like an aggregate hauler as well?
So I will show, as I mentioned, there's only two options for the rate. There's one, you use the regulated rate, which is based on the regional rate, and then you could go kind of outside that rate. But both required that rate has to be uniformly used. So you can't just charge. I know this is a kind of maybe not the answer they're expecting, but like you cannot use to like kind of different rates for different haulers. So like even for, I mean, I don't know what to say, but like kind of this is the two rates has to be uniformly, whether regional or the outside rate.
Okay.
So no different rate for different hauler within one municipality.
But the next question that we do have is, I understand that they can't use the roads, but could you identify what steps admins are supposed to take? And this may be a question for another department to follow up with, and we can look to identify that if that's the case.
I think there's some there will be some opportunities even in the regs. One example might be the road committees, right? So might be because the road committee has the legislative authority to give orders. If the council, depending on what the council says to that. And I think this is one thing this is one question that we could take back and then maybe respond to at a later time. We've been asked the same question, and then what to consistently say is that the ministry doesn't get into that space because the legislation is super clear. Municipalities has the right to have road maintenance agreement with oilers, and if oilers can't, if they don't want to have an agreement, that in interpretation it means they can't use the road. So what other operations municipalities could do? The council could have bylaws, right, or something along that line. That's a municipal. I mean, like it's a municipalities have the autonomy to make their own local laws on what could happen within their municipality. So, but we can take it back for sure because this is the third time I've been asked this question, and I've always been telling them it's not our space. The legislation is there. The municipalities are empowered to enforce oilers to have an agreement. So what if the oiler doesn't want to? The legislation doesn't state specifically what municipalities could do.
Okay, so we have a comment here. In the past, when a company would not sign an RMA with my RM, I had pictures of them hauling on the road, and I sent them a fine under the general penalty bylaw. Those companies now sign and pay every year. So that's an option provided by an RM that had that difficulty that's been identified here. So that may be an option to explore.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to what I said earlier through bylaws, right? Because it's a municipalities could make bylaws on any situation, on any local situation, right? So they have the autonomy to make those bylaws.
Okay, so the next question that we do have, and it looks like this may be the last question that we do have. Any further, we'll give you a minute to trickle those in. But this last question here is, what does frequency refer to? Number of trips per haul or number of times a hauler does a bulk haul with multiple trips? I'll read that question again there for you guys. So what does frequency refer to? Number of trips per haul or number of times a hauler does a bulk haul with multiple trips?
It is,
Sorry, go ahead, Mohammed. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, it's the number of times that a bulk haul are carried out. So
Okay, so it doesn't look like any further questions have popped up. I think we'll take a few of these off. Sorry.
we'll share the presentation that has like kind of definition of every single like variable. We shared the presentation with the registrant, so that you could refer to the presentation. If you have any question, Jennifer, message my email and Yomi and the mailbox for our unit. So if you have any question also, just feel free.
Well, looks like there may have been one last one about sharing the formula. Do you have an example of the formula? And so that formula is contained within the presentation there.
Yes.
As well. Okay, so I think that might be it for questions, unless another few pop in over the next minute here, but I'll just take this opportunity to thank Mohammed for you coming out and giving this presentation, and as well for you joining us to help answer questions there. So we do appreciate your time, and everyone else for taking time out of your day to join us in the webinar. We hope you did find the information useful there. And as Mohammed mentioned, that webinar recording will be made available on SARM's website as a reference. And you can follow up if you do come up with any further questions you'd like to ask, as well as the ones we've flagged here today. We'll take those offline and look to follow up with response to those. So with that, I'll wrap up the webinar. We hope you guys have a good rest of your day and can take care there. Bye for now.
Thank you.